Hi everyone, welcome to Data Lounge. This is the first video of this channel. I created this channel as a platform for anyone who is interested in learning about data analysis, data science, or data engineering. I will be sharing videos related to concepts, tools, tutorials, and projects that are useful in this field. I'm practicing myself these projects so that if this becomes useful for anyone, that would be great. So feel free to share your thoughts if you have any feedbacks or suggestions, or you find anything that you would say you would do better than this. Just let me know in the comments. So let's learn together, right? Without further ado, let's get started. So in this first couple of videos, I will be doing a dashboard to analyze the sales data of new motor vehicles sold in Canada. So it's an open source data available in the Canada government website. So now I'll be moving to my screen. So I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back everyone. So here's a snapshot, or this is the actual dashboard that you're going to create by the end of this project, and you can see that this gives a pretty good overview of new motor vehicle sales occurred in Canada over the years. So you can see that there are sales dollars given for each year, units sold, average cost, and an year-over-year comparison of the monthly sales dollars, and year-over-year comparison of monthly sales units, and how much sales occurred, how much sales happened in different provinces in Canada, and what type of vehicles were sold, comparison between trucks and passenger cars, and an overall time series plot that shows how the sales trend is happening over the years starting from 2001, and we have data until 1st of April. So let's get started and start building the dashboard. So the data set that I'm using for this project is an open source data set available in a website by the Government of Canada. So I'll put the link to this dataset in the description. You can download different versions of it. So the one that I'm using is a CSV format dataset. You can just simply click download here. You will be able to download it. So download and save that in a folder in your computer. Now let's start a new file in PowerBI. So first of all, open PowerBI application on your computer. The one I am using here is PowerBI version 2.119.666, 64-bit, released on July 2023. So this is the free desktop version, and there is other versions, like other licenses for PowerBI, like the PowerBI Service and PowerBI Pro, which requires paid subscription to use those different features available in those. So usually in organizations, they will have a pro license or a premium license so that they are able to share what they create online and put them in scheduled refresh, so you don't have to worry about updating them every time manually, so they will get updated automatically. So those are some additional details. So let's just start simple. We're going to create the dashboard. So first I'm going to start a new file. So go to File, click on New. So if you open the application from the desktop icon, you don't have to do this. You'll be directly you'll be directly presented with a new untitled Power BI file. So this will be the screen you will get once you open Power BI. So you have different options here: get data, recent sources, that lets you open recent sources that you have, recent data sources that you have already used, and you have here some of the previous files or recent files that you have already been working with. So let's just start with get data, or you can just close this. I'm going to close this one, and you can see that like any other Microsoft applications, you will find ribbons here with different options. So I'm going to click on Home, Get Data, and here you can choose from a multiple or several data sources. There are more options. You will still have, this is just a preview of the data sources that you can use, but there is plenty of other data sources that you can use to get data from. So right now for this project, we are just going to use the CSV file that we downloaded. So I'm going to select the text or CSV file. So now I have the file saved in my desktop, so I'm going to click that, Canada car sales data. Click on that, click on Open. So you'll get a preview. Once you click on Open, you get a preview of the dataset. So here's what the dataset looks like. So before that, I just want to show you the dataset directly from the CSV file. So I'm going to open that. Just give me a minute. I'm going to cancel this here. Minimize. So here's the dataset. Just gonna open it and show you how the dataset looks like. Alright, so here's the dataset that we downloaded, and let me just expand this. So you can see here there's a ref date, that's date of each year starting from 1946, and you have geographic location, that is Canada. Even though it says Canada, this one actually has other provinces included in this, so you're gonna have to filter out the Canada because that's an overall or a aggregate sum of all the other provinces in Canada. So then there is a GUID. This is an ID column. Then there is a vehicle type. Even though this is an ID column, this is not actually useful for us in this one. There's a vehicle type, origin of manufacturer, sales by units and in dollars, seasonal adjustment, unit of measurement ID, scalar factor, scalar ID. So there are quite a number of columns in here. So for our analysis, we won't be needing all of this. So we will get rid of the unwanted data, and those steps we will do in the cleaning and transformation steps. So this is how the data looks like in an Excel sheet. So I just wanted to give you an overview. So I'm going to close this. Don't want to save that. going back to the Power BI file. So I'm going to get data, text or CSV, select Canada car sales data. Sorry. Open. So here you can see that you have the data set preview shown here. It's a Unicode format with comma delimiter, and all the columns that we saw in the CSV file when we opened in Excel are shown here. So before loading, we need to transform it. So we're gonna do the cleaning steps, get rid of unwanted columns and rows. So to do that, we're going to transform it. So click on Transform Data. Okay, I got that opened up. So now we have opened the data in Power Query Editor. So you can see here this query settings, and here in this panel you can see that there are applied steps. So here it shows the source from which we got the data. So this is how initially the data set looked like when it got imported into the Power Query Editor. So the Power Query Editor has a lot of different options where you can transform your data set, clean it, aggregate it, join different data set, merge different tables, create calculated columns. So there are a whole lot of options that you can work with. So here you can see that by default the Power Query Editor assigned the top row as headers. So initially when we imported it, it was like this. There were no headers, so it automatically promoted the first row as header, which we need, and changed the data types on some of the columns. So as you can see here, the ref date initially it was showing up as text, and in this changed type step, Power Query Editor changed the data types automatically, detecting the data in the columns. So you can see here decimals changed to number, value here changed to number. So all these are automatically detected. So now we are going to change these data set and clean it and transform it so that we can use it in our dashboard. So first of all, you can see that the data set has so many different columns, and I don't need all of these columns to get the data that I need for the dashboard. So the decimals here, you can look at the decimals, the values in the column by clicking on the drop down in the header. So here you can see it shows only 0 values, and I can also load more values in that column. So you can see here it just has 0 as the value in that column. So it's not pretty much useful for me, so I'm going to get rid of that decimal column. So for that I'm going to right click and remove it. So so you can see any time I click on I do a transformation step, that steps gets recorded on the applied steps. So here you can see that it removed columns, and here this shows here the what step that you did. So here it shows that after the changed type step, you've removed columns, and the column name was decimals. So we're going to do multiple columns. We are going to delete multiple columns. So I don't need the status here, I don't need the symbol, I don't need the terminated. So I'm going to get rid of those. So I just use the control button on my keyboard, select one by one, or you can also select it using the shift key. Click on first column, click on the last column. That will also select them together. Right click, remove columns. So that will remove more columns. So you can see that since this is the same step, removing column, it gets added into that same step on the applied steps. So you can see here, removed columns, the number of columns, column names increased here. So all the columns that got removed are shown in this one. So now so let's see. So I'm going to get rid of this one as well, because I don't need the UID column, DG UID ID column here, because this is also not that much useful for me, or not at all useful for me right now for this project. So I'm going to get rid of that, and just bear with me, there's quite a few we don't need in here. So I'm going to get rid of measurement, ID, scalar factor, scalar ID, vector coordinate. Just bear with me so you can see what I'm doing here. So I selected these columns as well. I'm going to remove them just like we removed the other columns. Right click, remove columns, and so as you can see here, there's scalar factor units, thousands, value, origin of manufacturer, vehicle type. So here you can see that there is a aggregate row that actually totals the individual passenger cars data and trucks data into one single row. So we actually don't need the totals, because we are going to get the totals from the detail or the row data for each individual categories once we get the data transformed and cleaned up. So here we don't need the total, because that will throw off the totals when we try to add the total amount of sales or total units sold. So we are going to filter out anything that has total in the raw data. So for that, I'm going to select the drop down here, use the text filters, and select does not contain total. Click on OK. And also, we don't need the individual we don't need the total for Canada as a whole, because we already have the data for each province, and that will all add up to the total for Canada. So again, we are going to get rid of that data from here. So let's just say does not contain Canada. Or you can also use, instead of contain, you can also use does not equal. Maybe we can just use this one for now. So you can see that gets filtered. Okay, so once we do that, we're going to, so you can see that the year, starting year is changed here. So I think the data before 1960 was only Canada as a whole instead of individual states. So anyway, we are not going to use data from 1961. We are just going to use, I filter that out to year or date after 12/31/2000. So we're going to see data from 2000, 1st of January 2001. Alright, so that's filtered, and we don't want, so here you can see there is different units here. So again, another total or aggregate value for rows is here in the origin of manufacture. So I'm going to get rid of that as well. So again, does not contain any total. Okay, so we are getting there slowly. Now what do we have here? So I'm going to name this as Canada vehicles sold dollars, and I'm going to get rid of this column here, seasonal adjustment. So this one is not needed. Remove that, because we can already see that it's all unadjusted. So it's alright to get rid of that column. And we have sales units and dollars. So now we have named this as a dollar table, sales dollars. So I just need anything that is in dollars. So I'm just going to say that sales equals dollars. So we have value here, and we can see that the scalar factor for dollars is in thousands. So that means this is a round figure. This is in thousands. So that means we need to multiply this value by 1000 to get the actual dollar value. So I'm going to create or I'm going to change this column to, or multiply that column with a value 1000. So for that, I'm going to go to the ribbon tools, transform, and I'm going to select the column, and you can see that a whole lot of options became active. So in here I'm going to select standard, multiply. I need to multiply everything with 1000. Click on OK. So now you can see everything multiplied by 1000, and they are the actual dollar value. I'm going to rename the header, table header. So for that, I'll just right click, rename, or you can also double click on that column header, and just gonna say sales dollar. So one more thing I need to do to clean this data, so that is you can see that there are null values in this data set. So I'm going to change those to zeros. So I'm gonna replace values and value defined null and replace with 0. Click on OK. You can see that everything got changed to, every null values got changed to zeros. So all you gotta do is just right click on the column header, replace values. It will change to, you'll be able to change the particular values that you need to change. Alright, so almost there, and finally I don't need the scalar factor column here, so I'm going to remove that as well. Right click, remove. So now I have the date of the sale, the geographic location, that is the province, Canadian province, and we have the vehicle type, passenger cars, trucks, and origin of manufacturer, North America, Japan, and other countries. So, and we have the sales in dollars. I can get rid of this sales column as well. That's also not needed. Remove this. So we have one table ready to be loaded into our dashboard, but we also need the the sales value in units. So I'm going to create or duplicate the same table, and I need to make a lot of transformation steps similar to this table that I have already created and transformed. So to avoid repeating all the steps, I can just duplicate this table. So right click on the table name here, and you can choose duplicate. In the dollars, in the name of the table, I'm just going to rename it to units. You can see here we have ref date, all the same columns, or all the same steps that we used for the previous table is already there. So we're gonna have to go back a few steps and change that to units instead of dollars. So I'm going to delete a few steps at the bottom. So for that, I'm going to use this one. Remove columns 2. Just hit the cross or the X icon here. That will remove that step. Replaced value. Renamed columns. Multiplied columns. I don't need to multiply the units. Filter grows equals dollars. So I'm going to change that filter. I need units instead of dollars. So sales should be units. So I'm going to change it to units. Click on OK. So now everything is in units, and I can get rid of these two columns now because they are all just saying that these are in units. So right click, select the two columns, and right click, remove columns. And we have value. I'm going to change the name to sales units, and last step is to right click, replace values, value defined null, replace with 0. So this is basically the same step we did for the previous table. Alright, so we got the sales unit ready and ready to be used in the dashboard. So here's what I'm going to do. So on the second thought, I need to have the dollars and units in one single table, because I don't have a calendar table right now. I can create one, but I'm not doing that in this project. I'm just gonna do an EC method, because we are just using one single data source here, and we don't have a lot of different tables to work with that has date in there. So to make it simple, I'm just going to merge the two tables together and bring in the units and dollars into one single table. So for that, I'm just going to select the Canada vehicles sold dollars. I select that, and if you go to home button and select merge queries, you can queries, and it will automatically select the dollar table. So and I'm going to merge it with the units table. So I'm selecting the drop down here, and you can select the columns that you need to merge. So you know that there are corresponding rows for each column in the unit table. So we're going to select ref date and ref date, so they are going to be merged together. And now I'm going to select control button on my keyboard, press the control button on my keyboard, and select the geo column. So you can see that this is the first join, first relation between the two tables. So now this is a second relation. So so you can see here in number 2 shown here on that column. So now I'm going to select the geo column in the vehicles sold units. Repeat it for vehicle type and origin of manufacturer. So you can see that all of these are joined, all the corresponding columns are joined together, and you can see the selection matches 10,720 rows in both the tables. So that means they are exactly matching, and we are using a left outer join. So if anybody doesn't know about a left outer join, it is the join where you are getting all the rows from the left table. Here the left table is the dollars table, and any matching rows in the right table. In this situation we have all the rows matching, so everything will be imported into the left table. But there are situations where all the rows are not matching, so only the matching rows will be transferred or queried or joined to the output table or the dollars table. So that's basically left join. So now we are going to click OK here. So you can see there is a new column that shows Canada vehicles sold units, and you can click on table. So you just need just one column that is the units. We are just trying to get the sales units into the same table as dollar table. So for that, you'll just click on this button right here on that column header. Select that, and let's get rid of, uncheck all the columns, and also we don't need to use a prefix on the new column name, so uncheck that as well. And you can see here sales unit, this is the one that you need to import or generate into the dollar table. So select that, click on OK, So now you can see that the corresponding sales units are imported into this table. So it doesn't make sense to name this as dollars, so I'm just going to name it as vehicles sold, vehicle Canada, vehicle sales. So I have renamed it, and now we are ready to load this data into the Power BI dashboard and create visualization that lets you create insights or derive insights from your data, and you can build excellent visualizations that represent the sales trends and comparison over the years, and a comparison between different provinces, all those information from this data set. So, and one more thing before loading this, so this data set right here, this table, we don't need this one to be loaded again because the information, all the information in here is already in this table. So we are just going to select that, right click, you see this here, enable load checked already by default. We're going to uncheck it. So now you can see that table name is italicized, and that means it won't get loaded into your data model. Now we are ready to go. We can click on close and apply. Alright, let's wait for the dataset to get loaded into the into your Power BI dashboard. So you can see that all the rows in that table is loaded into the dashboard. So you can see here the data pane here, and there's all the columns that you have in your table. So now next is creating the visualization, and that we will create in the next video. I'll see you in the next one.